Hi everybody, it's Miss Rossi. Today we're going to finish our Van Gogh inspired sunflower vases. What you will be needing today is your drawing from last week. You should have drawn it in pencil and traced it in marker so it's easier to see. We're also going to be using some crayons, and I'm going to use watercolor paints to color in my picture today. You can use any material you have at home to add color if you do not have watercolor paints. If you used a washable marker to trace your picture, you want to avoid using watercolor paints because it might make your marker start to bleed on the paper a little bit. But if you traced it in a permanent marker like a Sharpie or something else, it should be fine. You could color your picture in with markers, crayons, colored pencils, or any other materials as well. Now, Vincent Van Gogh's paintings are known for showing all the different textures with his thick brush strokes of paint. So I am going to use my crayons to create the illusion of texture. So I am going to add different kinds of marks on certain areas of my picture with some different colored crayons, and then once I paint over the top with my watercolor, it's going to give some extra layers and extra little details in there to make it a little bit more exciting than if I just colored it in like normal. So I think I'm gonna start at my table, and I want a wooden table for my picture. So I'm going to pick a couple different color browns. I'm gonna pick some darker browns and some lighter browns. And I'm just going to follow along with some of these lines that I already drew in the table and just add some extra lines of crayon. Now I'm just adding these little dashes in all different spots. And wherever I put the crayon, my watercolor is going to resist it. I know we've done this before and we've learned that our crayon and the wax in it prevents the watercolor from covering over it. So if I add a bunch of little extra lines in here with all different colors, they will still shine through once I add my paint on top. So I don't want to fully color in this area, I just want to add some extra little decorations here and there to create the illusion of texture. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go in and do something similar inside my vase. Put these crayons back. You can be choosing whatever colors you would like for your picture. So I think I'm going to move on to my vase next. I think I want more of like a red and pink vase. Again, you can pick whatever colors you'd like. So I have some different colors, reds and pinks here. And I think I want this stripe down here to be more blue. So again, I'm just going to add some little lines for texture. I'm doing the same kinds of lines that I did in my table here. I'm going to focus my darker red toward the inside of my vase and just color in some little sections. Since I'm using a darker color, it's going to help create a shadow so it actually will look like the inside of my vase. Now I'm just coloring some curvy little wavy lines here and there around the edge. I'm going to do that on both edges, letting some of those lines come closer towards the center, but focusing most of them on the outside. And again, this is going to hopefully create a little bit of a shadow effect, so my vase is going to look more round. I'm going to do that with my other dark pink as well in those same kind of spaces. You can decide, maybe you want to draw another pattern on your vase. Maybe you want to add some different kinds of details and decorations on here. We just want to use a little bit of crayon on here just so we have some extra texture to make our picture a little bit more interesting. I'm going to put these away, and I'm going to take a nice dark green color and look at my stems next. With my stems, I'm just going to add some little lines of green in certain spaces in there as well. You can choose how you would like to do this. That looks pretty good. Maybe you want to add some lighter green in there too and mix those colors together, kind of like we did in our vase. I don't have that much space, so I think I'm going to leave it the way that it is. And now I'm going to move up to my sunflowers. So my sunflowers, I think, are going to be a little different in each one. I'm going to pull out a black. I'm going to pick some darker orange, some golden yellows, and some lighter yellows. I'm just going to look at each flower individually and kind of decide how I want it to look. So I'm going to start by coloring that circle in on that one black. And I'm going to add just some extra little yellow lines all the way around it. Maybe I want a little bit of orange in the center too. I think I want to draw some orange swirly lines in the center of that one. So I'm just kind of picking and choosing where I want some extra color to be on my flower. Maybe you want to trace over some of your detail lines, like right now I'm tracing over those extra little lines I drew inside my petals with one of my yellows. You can really do this however you'd like. You know, we're not trying to color in the space. It's almost like I don't want to say scribble, maybe like a controlled scribbling, where you're just adding accent colors in certain spaces. Alright, I think that looks pretty good for my flowers. And the last area I'm going to add some details to is my background. So I didn't draw anything in the background of my picture. Maybe you drew a pattern or you created some wallpaper. Maybe you drew something else in the background too. So you can decide how you would like to do that based on what you have drawn. I am just going to kind of go in the same way I did the bottom half with those little lines, but instead of going horizontally from left to right, I'm going to go up and down with my lines. So I'm going to turn my paper just so it's a little easier. And I am just going to color in some dashed lines all around the background. There we go, that looks pretty good. It kind of looks like rain. Now that I'm done using my crayons, I can move on to my watercolor. So with my watercolors, I am just going to paint over my entire picture in all the different sections to fill in all of the white space. Now, since we used Sharpie to trace with and we didn't use crayon, normally when we trace with crayon and watercolor, it holds the watercolor in to that space. Our Sharpie is not going to do that. So the colors from my flower might end up blending with the colors in my background, and that's okay. Our paint is supposed to be blending together. It should be a little messy, and that is all the fun of painting. I'm going to start by painting my flowers. I'm wetting my paintbrush, wiping it off on the edge of my cup so I don't drip all over the place, and I'm just going to start with some of my browns and my oranges and my yellows. Pick where I think they should go. And you can paint your flowers however you would like. I think I'm going to try and use colors that are similar to what I used already, maybe a different shade, like a darker or lighter shade than the crayon that I used to add details, but kind of staying in the same color family. I finished with that color, so I washed off my paintbrush. Now I'm swirling in my lightest yellow, and we want to be very gentle with our watercolor paints. We want to swirl our brush in there. We don't want to jab it in there too hard. We don't want to hurt the bristles on our paintbrush. They should always stay forming a nice big point. There we go, and I can see some of my darker yellows that I used peeking through this lighter yellow paint that I'm using. I think I'll add some of this darker yellow in the center. So I washed my paintbrush again, dipped in my new color, and I can paint it right over that center piece. And I can see that orange crayon still peeking through where I added my little texture details. I'm just going to go in and paint the rest of my flowers the same way, where I'm just picking and choosing which colors for each section, making sure I am taking good care washing my paintbrush and filling in all of the white space as best as I can. Now that I've finished painting all the insides of the tops of my flowers, I'm going to go down into the stems and add some green in there. So I do have a light green and a dark green in my palette. I think I'm going to stick to mostly the light green. And I'm just going to carefully paint right over all of my stems. Now my paintbrush is a little bigger. It's a little thicker than my stems. So my paint is going to bleed out of my stems a little bit, and that's okay. Like I said, this does not have to be perfect. We can really let our paints mix and blend together and get a little messy today. And I think that's going to make it look even more fun and exciting. I want to let that dry a little bit before I do the top and the background. So I'm going to focus down towards the bottom now, and I'm going to do my table. And for that, I'm just going to swirl in my brown paint and paint that right over the top. And now you can really see, oh, this is like a nice reddish brown, how it is being resisted by that crayon that I just used, and it's pooling in certain spaces and it's not going in other spaces. All right, I'm happy with the way that that looks. Now I'm carefully going to go in and do my vase. I think I'm going to stick to more of my reds and these oranges and this pink. I think I'll start with the pink first for most of my vase, and then I will go in with my red on the inside section, and then I'll add some dark blue or purple in those stripes. Maybe I'll do purple, that might look nice. Now that everything else is done, I'm going to go back up to the top section and just fill in the background. Maybe I'm going to use this darkish teal color that I have and fill in the background with this. So I finished off the background using that dark green, and then I even went in with some of my darker blue, and I went over the top of some of my areas and just let that blend and mix together. Sometimes when you're painting, you just want to keep adding and mixing and blending your colors together to see where it takes you, and I'm pretty happy with the way that this looks. Once you're done with your project, you can take a photo or video of it and upload it on our Canvas page. I can't wait to see the beautiful still life paintings you guys have created. Try your best, have fun, and get creative, and I'll see you soon. Bye!